Hi, my name is Adrienne Glatz, and I'm the Development Coordinator for the College of Humanities and Fine Arts, and I'm also an alumni of the college with a BA in Humanities. And today I'm with music education student Julia Daijogo, and we're going to talk about some of the things that she's been doing this year, going to school remotely, still living in Chico, but taking all of her classes online, and some of the things that she's experienced, and some of the fun things that she's been doing during this time of uh, being online and going through classes in such an abnormal way. So Julia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Julia. I'm a junior. I'm a music ed major. My primary instrument is alto sax. I also play tenor. Um, I'm president of our band staff, which is kind of like our booster group, but the student version. And I'm also our vice president for our Chico State NAFME chapter. And NAFME stands for or National Association for Music Education. Just had a total whoop there for a second. But yeah, it's been kind of rough online, especially with all of the observations and field classes that we should be doing as upperclassmen. So yeah, it's been a journey so far.
So what's it like? So currently you're living in Chico.
Mhm.
Your home isn't Chico. Where are you from?
I'm from the Bay Area, like East Bay. I'm about 45 minutes to an hour east of San Francisco, really depending on traffic and road work. But yeah, some people say it's not Bay Area. I like to think it's Bay Area, born and raised. But yeah, it's about 3 hours with one stop, or 1 to 2 stops from Chico to here.
Okay, so you're from the Bay Area, you're living in Chico, you're also working part-time and going to
Hmm.
school full-time. What's
Yeah.
that like?
Um, it's it has a learning curve, honestly. Like the first week of school, I was really stressed about trying to balance both of them. But my managers are super cool and they're really accommodating. So I normally work weekends just because I don't have classes on Fridays anyway. So I normally work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is perfect because then I don't have to worry about doing it during the week. Sometimes I do pick up shifts for coworkers like sporadically during the week, which is okay because if they're like, hey, can you cover me? I'm like, I can't have class until 9 p.m., you know? But a planner is really your best friend. I was really good at it for like the first 4 weeks, and then this week I wasn't. And then it all just spiraled like within a couple days. I'm like, oh, because like it's like what Dr. Tevis would always say, the pencil remembers, the brain does not. So that is a testament to his teaching right there.
So what is it like being a music ed teacher, or sorry, music ed major who's going to be a teacher? So you're taking all of these classes online where typically they would be in-person classes because you're doing rehearsals, you're learning conducting, learning how to teach. What's it like doing all of that remotely when it's such a hands-on major?
It's difficult. I'm not gonna lie and say that it's not. Especially with our like tech classes. Like this semester, I'm taking brass tech, and it was one thing for me. I'm less than 5 feet tall, so the first unit I was put on tuba, and I got the small one, but it was still the size of me. So that was really difficult, and it's a lot harder when you're remote as well because I have a lot of friends that play brass. Like if we were in the Performing Arts Center, I'd be like, hey, can we meet at 1:32 at whatever time and you can help me because I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I play woodwinds, like that's my thing. So that's kind of extremely difficult, but it does help that YouTube exists because if YouTube wasn't a thing, I feel like I would have been like trying to keep my head above the water more so than I already am. But it's very strange thinking about all the observations and things that we have to do because all bands are online right now. So even if they are online during their scheduled time, they're not going to be doing live rehearsals because the lag over Zoom is like astronomical, you know? So it's kind of hard to see how you would teach brass instruments when you're not a brass player, but we're working it out. We know there's things to iron out and fix and everything, but yeah, it's very strange, especially since we are such a hands-on track.
So what are some of the things that you're learning by doing these types of observations and not being in the classroom? What things are you learning through the experience?
It's more so like classroom management type things, and like you are going to be a music teacher or band director or choral director, but you're also like kind of an outlet for students to, I wouldn't say a parent figure, but you're an older figure for them in their life. So you kind of have to be able to adapt to whatever situations your students are in and kind of be that person for them if they need to. So that's another thing. Like I always knew that that was a super important part of being any sort of teacher, but especially with everything happening now with COVID and even the fires that are happening up here. Even if you're overwhelmed and stressed, you kind of have to be able to take yourself out of that situation and be able to help your students. And I feel like that is something that you kind of learn by experience. Like you always know in the back of your head that you have to do it, but it's one of those things that you need to do to actually fully understand how to do it.
So you're also doing rehearsals. Like you're in wind ensemble, you're in jazz band, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are those online rehearsals like?
So we started the semester off with the plan of using Jam Kazan, which is like an online software. It's essentially Zoom, but tailored specifically for musicians. I'm not going to come on here and slander anybody or anything because that's just disrespectful, and I'm not going to do that. But it did not work to the extent of what we needed it to work as, and because the projected plan was you can have up to 8 people in a session or like a jam session, and the latency issues were supposed to or are slim to none if you have an Ethernet cable, so you connect it to your Wi-Fi router to your computer. It did work if you had 3 to 4 people in a call. 4 was pushing it, but 3 was kind of the best. But it's one of those things where you have to balance your Wi-Fi with 3 other people's Wi-Fi.
Oh.
So like if I'm the only one, like if my roommate's at work, right, and I'm the only one plugged in, I have most of the Wi-Fi juice going to my computer, right? But if with 2 other people, if their roommates are home in class or streaming something like listening to music, one little thing throws the entire song out of place. And so then you're kind of playing on like the off beats when you really shouldn't be. And it was just a lot to try and work out. So now what we're doing is we are recording ourselves. We're getting a lot of help from SOTA, the School of the Arts on campus, and some recording arts upperclassmen as well who are doing this as a kind of like a project. And so we are recording ourselves with Professor Navarrete uploading, this is for one ensemble, uploading sheet music that we have scanned from last school year when we were scanning a lot of music into PDFs. So that honestly helped out in way more ways than we could have ever thought. That we were just really overwhelmed with the work at that time, but it ended up being okay because now we can use it. But we're recording ourselves and then submitting those to like the Google Drive that we made for our class. And then the recording arts guys download it and then mix it. And then we have a song. And that's the kind of abridged version, even though I went into super lot of detail for that. And we're doing the same thing with Express, but for combos, we're doing that, but on a much smaller scale. Like each combo gets to pick what song it is. And at that point, it's a rhythm section and like 2 horns. So we have a couple freshmen in Express and in combos who are really, really good at that. So it's more of like an in-house type thing rather than submitting it somewhere else.
So it sounds like you guys had like this challenge with technology, but you spun it. So it actually turned out to be a really collaborative thing because you're working now with recording art students and with SOTA Productions and whatnot. So that's actually a really cool thing. So has any other situations like that come up where you're faced with like these new challenges that you weren't expecting and all of a sudden it's becoming more collaborative? Has anything else like that happened?
Yes. So we're actually trying to do a documentary, like a very, not like National Geographic Earth type documentary, but more of like how our department is kind of dealing with everything at the moment. So we're doing some video diaries or little vlogs and like the recordings that we were making. into like one big video. And so we are having, again, the recording arts people do that. And then we're also doing the same, because I'm also in a cappella choir and chamber singers. So for a cappella, we
You're
aren't
in
really,
all the ensembles.
I am. And because when I registered at this point, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. We'll be hybrid, like we'll all wear masks and social distance, it'll be great. And then now we're all online, which we started the semester off all online, so it wasn't a super jarring experience when Chico State made the decision to make everyone online. But for chamber singers, we are also having a different group of recording arts majors. For one of their classes, they need an ensemble to work with through the semester. So, and there's like 13 of us in chamber singers, I think. So we're essentially doing the same thing with the tracks and things like that. But we originally weren't planning on doing that because we're like, oh, we'll use Jam Kazam. And then that ended up not working. So it's just kind of a huge shift of everything, kind of going from being live to doing it on our own time, but also need to meet all these deadlines. So yeah.
That's so cool that you were able to take a challenging problem and turn it around into something that is more usable, that works with other people, other students. So like the recording arts students, I'm sure it's pretty awesome for them because they're able to use the things that they're learning in their classes, whatnot, to help you guys out. So it's
kind of sick because then it's like everyone's not, it's like our department is kind of like one big family, like everybody knows everybody, which I didn't realize is like out of the ordinary in college. Like I didn't until I talked to my friends that are like psych majors or like media arts majors, or like, yeah, I know a couple of my professors, but like we don't like vibe with them or like send them YouTube videos of, hey, like check out this song, it's super sick, so it just kind of reinforces the fact that our department is like awesome and we all kind of are able to come together, and especially in such a time of like uncertainty, like we don't know what's going to be happening in 2 weeks from now, so it's nice that we do have one consistent thing, and that's each other. So that's something that I always appreciated, but it's like appreciated italicized now, like it's like extreme,
it's much more evident now. It's like, oh, we're all in this together, so how can we help each other out and really function as, like you said, a family? Because I remember when I was a student, even though I'm a humanities major, I was in wind ensemble, and that's what it was like. I mean, your other musicians, they're your family, they're the people that you go to, and so I can totally relate and see that happening even now with everything that's going on. So speaking to that, when I was a student, so I went to school with a certain clarinetist, Lindsay Vietti, who's now Lindsay Kellogg, and I understand that she was actually your teacher. Was it junior high?
Yeah, junior high.
Was she a reason why you came to Chico?
Oh, 100%. Like, she was one of my biggest, like, musical inspirations as a sixth grader. I'm like, she's so cool. Like, look at her go, like, because she was young and, like, not to the point where it's any sort of unprofessionalism at all, but she was like, I've been where you guys are, and it was one of those things where she I could go on, and I love her so much. She's like an aunt to me, like just throughout the course of my life. I think I've known her like 6-7+ years now, and so it's really cool because my sister has her now as a teacher. She teaches at one of the high schools in my hometown, so my sister followed her from junior high to now high school, so she's still super close with my family. Like, we go camping with them. I've babysat her kids, watched her dogs, I've like house sat for her countless times. And so again, it just circles back to like the music world is only like, it's not that big. Like, everybody knows everybody, or at least if you throw a name, they're like, oh, I don't know her, but like my neighbor's cousin's best friend, like, it's just one of those things where you kind of hear names and you're just like, oh, it's like name association, so anyway, back to your original question. She is definitely the reason that I'm here right now, because for a while, like my top school was University of Oregon, and I wanted to get out of California and go to Oregon. Like, that was been like the plan since I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school. And then I got in, but I didn't get into the conservatory, and there's this whole like big thing with financial aid, and it just wasn't in the cards for me at that point. And so for Chico, I was like, no, I don't party. Like, I don't want to, like, no, because it's a stigma, like, oh, a party school. And like,
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of big crowds. Like, I like concerts and everything, but I'm like, that just seems unappealing to me, like in every way, shape, or form. And so she was like, I went there and I turned out pretty cool. I'm like, you're right, but also like, no. And so then one day she texted me, it was during our spring break, because our high school spring break didn't line up with the college's spring break. So she texted me at like on a Sunday night at like 6 p.m. She goes, Dr. Tevis is expecting you in wind ensemble on Wednesday, be there. And I was like, huh? And I was like, no. So then she like just threw me into this like college rehearsal. I'd been there before as a middle schooler, because we did like a workshop with Dr. Tevis, but I didn't remember. I'm like, that was my senior year. And I was like, huh? Like, what? No. And then it turns out there was advising day that day. So there wasn't actually a wind ensemble rehearsal, but then I got to meet Dr. McConkey and Dr. Tevis. And I met Rocky in passing, and I was like, he's cool. So like, that was also kind of like a bonus. And then I took a tour of the campus, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't see myself anywhere else but here. So shout out to Lindsay, if you're watching this, because you are the reason that I'm here right now. So yeah.
That's cool. So what about your sister? Is she planning to come here? Are you
She
recruiting?
I've asked her a couple times. She came up last fall, because that was pre-COVID. So she came up probably around this time last fall, and my mom came to our apartment and stayed for a couple days, and she like basically shadowed me in all my classes. I asked my teachers first, I'm like, hey, my younger sister is like kind of interested in coming here, because she was a sophomore at that point. But I'm like, is it okay if she like sits in on rehearsal and like plays with us? And Rocky and Professor Nav and Dr. They're like, oh my God, bring her. Like, that's so sick. And so I felt so bad. We picked the hardest song that we had in our express book to run that day. So she's like, what is this? I'm like, I'm just the one day, like the one time you're here, we do it like for all rehearsals. We got a lot done though, I'm not gonna lie. But she really does like the campus. She's more into she's in band, but she wants to do more like art therapy. Or art therapy / music therapy. So she said that she might come here. It's not like a hard no, because she really likes the campus and really likes the town, but it's more of her trying to figure out what she wants to do first before she like commits to a school. So, but she said it's a definite maybe. I'm like, okay.
That's understandable. So you still have time to work on her.
Oh yeah, 100%. Come on, you can be a wildcat, bro. Like,
Yeah, hey, alumni, Chico State alumni are awesome. What can I
it's
say?
true. It's very true.
So what are some of your goals this year, since we're doing everything online and it's all remote? So what are some of your learning goals that you're working on, and some maybe even thinking forward for like career goals? What are your plans?
I think for me, like as of right now, it's kind of like being able to get through the week with a positive outlook, because like especially now, it's really hard because we don't have our friends or like our normal support groups that we would have in PAC, like the people that would be there overnight from like midnight to 2 just like studying or practicing, and like our like core group of people. It's really hard being away from them, and some of them are back in their hometown, some of them are in Chico. It's like, I don't want to put you guys at risk or myself, like even being socially distant and everything like that. So that's really difficult. So on like a personal like goal is to just kind of be able to keep chugging through, and not let myself get too disheartened with everything that's going on. But also just like making the best of the semester. Like, there's really nothing we can do. Like, we're online, so we have to try and make the best of it and kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, this is how it is, but it's not going to be forever. Knock on wood, like, yeah. So Dr. McConkey, our music ed advisor, actually in our NAFME meeting a couple days or weeks ago, she was like, try and keep your guys' chins up. Like, it will get better. I can't tell you when, but it eventually will. So it's kind of looking towards that light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it all the time. It's there. You just
Mhm.
don't really know when. I think those are the two biggest goals at the moment.
So what about thinking more forward? What are your plans for the future for, because you're a music ed teacher, so you're wanting to teach.
Mm-hmm.
What type of teaching do you want to go into?
If you would have asked me a year ago, like last fall, I would have said high school without a doubt, like my high school band. A little scary because I never marched in high school. My high school was the only one in our district that didn't have a marching band, so that kind of was a culture shock for me when I got here. I was like, I'm the only. I was one of maybe 3 music majors who didn't march, and the other 2 were, or like in my grade, and the other 2 were vocal. I'm like, okay, well, this is great.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. So last summer, not COVID summer, but the summer before that, I helped with Mrs. Kellogg's marching band, and I was there because I had no experience. The only marching experience I had was our Pioneer Days parade, and Dr. Tevis put me in the back because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So he was like, hide in between these people who did drum corps, and you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So I would have said high school without a doubt. But after taking my elementary methods class, now I'm like, oh my gosh, now I don't even know, because like the little kids, they're just so eager to like learn, and they're just like look at you with like the big like, wow, you're so cool eyes, and you get to kind of help mold them and teach them like teamwork, and musicality comes with the class, I guess, but like working together and like being collaborative. They don't know what those words mean. They just know like, oh, pick a buddy, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go with my friend who I like her shoes. And so it's the little things like that, like the fundamental like I don't even know if characteristics or like skills that if you start teaching them really young, hopefully they can carry that with them throughout their life.
Hmm.
Like I still remember my elementary music class. My teacher was Miss Hart. She was awesome. And so to kind of be able to give them at a young age like something to look forward to or like help them do is also really cool. So now I have no idea. And then there's also choir too. I'm like, I've just really, whoever is like willing to hire me at this point, like I'm not picky.
So when are you set to graduate?
um I as of right now it's spring of 2022, but I had to drop some classes. Like GEs were dropped this semester because so many people dropped that class. There weren't enough people to fill it. So as of right now it's still spring of 2022. Crossing my fingers because I've been packing on units for the past I don't even know how many semesters I've been here, for a long time. So as of right now, I think at least me graduating with my degree in music ed is 2022.
That's good. So again, there's still some time to figure things out and
Mm-hmm.
plan. Because with everything that we're going through right now, I can kind of see like moving forward, things might change, perspectives might change,
Mm-hmm.
teaching methods might change. So this is definitely a growing and learning opportunity for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of like what are some of those things that you've learned and grown through during this whole experience?
Kind of, let's see, self accountability. I think because it's easy in person. You're like, someone says, "Oh, I'm gonna go practice." You're like, "Oh, I haven't practiced it today. I should probably go do that too." So that's been a big thing. Also, time management. Like I've never really been good at time management. Like I always get stuff done and I always meet deadlines, but I normally like stress myself out by doing so many things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's due first? Like what do I like prioritizing what needs to be done? I'm still struggling with that, especially living in an apartment, like trying to practice at normal times of the day. But then you also run into the issues like, are my neighbors in a Zoom call? Are they going to hear me trying to play the trumpet at 2 p.m.? So that's kind of been a struggle, I guess. But I think self accountability and like getting yourself to actually do things, because it's really easy to get unmotivated, and it's happened to me a lot. And it's like I have a really good support system that I can kind of lean on if things get really rough, but it's like being able to take that first step and actually start doing what you need to do instead of just like, I need to do it, but I don't want to, and I have a million other things that I need to do and I don't have the energy to do it type thing.
So what advice would you give other students who, not just other music majors, but other students in general who are also taking classes remotely? What's maybe some advice that you would give them?
Okay, my mom and my grandma would always tell me like the sun is still gonna rise, you know, and so that's something that I've really had to like keep with me, I guess, like with everything happening. Like today could be terrible and the worst day ever, but tomorrow, like you still have the opportunity to make it better, you know. It's not saying that everything's gonna disappear overnight and tomorrow's gonna be the best freaking day ever, like you win the lottery, but like you're allowed to have the feelings of like, oh my god, this is awful, like I wish I miss my friends, I wish I was in person, but like, and you're allowed to feel those things and your feelings are valid, and you can like give yourself grace on the days that you don't want to do anything, you just want to lay in bed and watch Netflix all day, like that's allowed. And you know, and for me, I'm always like, I can't do that, I have so many other things to do, you know, but you're allowed to kind of just take a step back and be like, okay, for my mental health and sanity and everything, I need to just not for 3 hours, you know, and just kind of exist, you know, without really doing anything. And so I think that a lot of, at least the friends that I know, are like, I can't do that, I have all these things. Like but you need to for your well-being. And like my studio teacher Ryan actually told me my freshman year, he was like, you can't play well if you're not well, you know. And so I feel like that's something that people might have in the back of their mind, but they don't want to acknowledge because they have thousands of other things that they need to do at the moment. So I think my biggest piece of advice would to be to take a breath and just kind of like zen out or like woosah for a second and just kind of take yourself out of school and focus on you, even if it is only for 30 minutes or so. Like that 30 minutes is better than not doing that for 30 minutes and then working yourself completely to the bone.
So what are some of the things that are inspiring you during this time?
See, that's the question, isn't it? Because again, it's like, at least for me, for a while, I was kind of like, I'm not performing for anybody. The only people that are hearing me right now practice are my roommate and my poor neighbors who live on the other side of this wall, you know, and it was really hard for me to like, it still is. It's not like it's over and done thing, but I think listening to music that kind of got me into wanting to study music. So like one of those things where you kind of just scroll back in your playlists. At least this is what I do. Like when I need to get inspired, I scroll back and I'll listen to like sets of like the funk band that I'm in, like our set list on like Apple Music, because we do covers and like originals and everything like that. But like listen to some of the covers from like the first gig that I played with them. Sometimes I cry. That happens. Like I'm just like, oh my god, I miss this so much. But then on the flip side, you're like, okay, well, I did that and it was awesome. And so what can I do to try and make myself feel that awesome again? So, and that's advice from one of my friends too. And he's like, if you feel unmotivated or uninspired, listen to music that does inspire you and try not to be analytical about it. Like, oh, that's a plagal cadence on the end of 3. Like just kind of chill and just like listen to the music and let yourself like have your brain produce the happy chemicals, you know, like the serotonin, and just kind of like, okay, again, that's what the whole removing yourself from school. But yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to go through music theory every time you listen to the music.
Exactly.
Just listen to the music.
Exactly. Like, oh, that's a German 6 chord. Like, no, just listen to it and just kind of just appreciate it. You know, like don't dissect it.
So it sounds like you're experiencing some really fun, exciting things during this time, even though it's super challenging for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting through it, and it's all a learning process. And
oh yeah.
so do you have any other parting words that you might want to give?
Hmm. I like to thank my parents in the academy. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
And the award goes too.
I think the biggest thing is like allow yourself to feel the feelings that you're feeling. That was terrible grammar. My poor AP English teacher, oh my gosh, her ears are burning right now. But like your feelings are valid and the way you feel is valid and you don't have to suppress it. And it's not good for you if you do. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your roommate or even your friends, like write it down. No one else is going to see it. It'll just be you. But just kind of like expel those feelings somewhere so then you don't just have them all bottled up, because that's not good for you and it like for everything. So especially now, because everyone's like, it's really easy to kind of feel lonely. Like you're like, I'm in my apartment, my roommates at work, or all my roommates are at work, or like they're visiting their family or doing whatever. Like you're not alone, you know? And so I think a lot of people right now are feeling that way, and that's okay. But you also like reach out, you know, and like know that you're not in it by yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you may feel alone, but you're not alone, you know?
That was so good. Seriously, you get an award for that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Julia, for spending this time and
Of course.
answering our 2020 questions. And I hope everything goes well for you for the rest of the semester and even next semester, because we'll be doing remote classes next semester. So much luck to you, and
Thank you. You
stay in
too.
touch and let us know how things are going.
Will do.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.